Okay, final question. What idea or policy proposal coming from the political right, broadly understood, in America right now do I find most promising? I really like this question. First of all, I don't disagree with conservatives on everything. I think, for instance, there's a moral case to be made for free trade. Now, I think that's often conflated with and used as a sort of justification for increasing corporate power, which I'm against. But in general, there's aspects of the market economy that I think are morally good and necessary. So I'm not left-wing completely down the line. In terms of specific ideas, I'm going to give you an answer to that. But I think it is worth noting how ideologically stale elites within the Republican Party have been for almost the past 30 years. The party's been trapped within a sort of neo-Reaganite, Ayn Randian, deregulatory, tax cuts for the rich agenda that has not been inspiring to its own voters. So there really is a disconnect in the US between conservative voters and conservative politicians. And it's into that gap that the monstrosity of Donald Trump inserted himself, though he has governed in a much more establishment type of way, it's worth noting. So there's really not a lot of interesting and innovative new ideas. Now, if you take something like the intellectual dark web, as they're calling themselves, there's some interesting ideas there, but it's debatable how many of them are even really conservatives. So I'm going to give an idea which is definitely conservative, but I find to be quite interesting and worth pursuing. Here's my answer. Demony voting. So if you haven't heard of this, it's sort of the right's return shot to the idea of lowering the voting age from 18 to 16, which is something liberals have proposed on the idea of getting people involved in politics earlier. So I got this from Ross Douthat, who's a conservative who I quite like, and I read his column. And the idea is, why 16? Let's just give all children the vote, but their parents will exercise it for them. Now, the parents can exercise it in consultation with their child, but ultimately it's the parent who'll cast the vote. So this is interesting, and it's interesting to think about what this would do to our democracy. It's not clear that it would benefit one party over the other, but it would certainly change the alignment of power within the parties. So within the Republican Party, it would probably do something to break the stranglehold that these bloody over 70, Bill O'Reilly watching, crotchety white people have had on the party. The Republican Party is controlled by the elderly, and that's something that we really need to talk about. I'm not saying the elderly shouldn't have political representation, of course they should, but no one age demographic should have a stranglehold on a political party. On the Democratic side, it would probably do a lot more to enfranchise and increase the political power of first and second generation immigrant communities, which again is not obviously a bad thing. Now, on the more sort of theoretical moral side, I could think of a few arguments for this. For one, it might, if people have to justify their votes to their children, it might arguably make their voting less bigoted. It might make them think more clearly about their reasoning for voting a certain way, and it might make their votes more forward-facing. Right now, the fact that children don't vote means that you can shortchange stuff like early childhood education in a lot of ways. There's a lot of political debate about how we fund university degrees. How much debate is there on the quality of what we're giving people ages 3 through 6? But actually, all the research in the world shows that that period is more important to someone's future success than whether they get a degree or not. But it's not part of our political debate, and maybe this sort of proposal would make people pay attention more to policies like that. Now, of course, there's any number of arguments you could give against it. I think I could well imagine someone like me who does not have children saying, well, hang on a minute. You can say people are going to do this in consultation with their kids, but in reality, you've just given some people 2 votes or even 3 or 4 votes, and I'm still stuck with 1. How on earth is this universal suffrage? So there's a lot of objections to it. But I think it's a really interesting idea, and I think it's something that I would be open to having a discussion about. So that's my answer to that. thank you for listening to the Political Philosophy Podcast. If you've enjoyed this show, please do share it. My big request always from all audiences is to share the show. We're a new project, it's a very niche thing, but for some of you I have heard that you've really enjoyed this and found it valuable. So my one request there would be to try and find some more people who would feel the same. So forward it to people you think would like it. If you are someone in a philosophy department, and I know there are a lot of professional philosophers who listen to this, consider sharing it with your students or putting it on a faculty page or something, because it is meant to be something that's out there and public philosophy. So if you're enjoying it, please do help get the word out by sharing, forwarding, tagging friends, whatever. Apart from that, thank you again for listening, or, in this case, watching, and I will see you next time.